Hey guys, this is my leak. This is the My Taught You podcast, and I have a very special guest for you today. Today's guest is Niija Kuykendall, Senior Vice President of Production at Warner Brothers Pictures, where she is currently in production on the films A Star is Born, starring Bradley Cooper, who is so cute, Lady Gaga, is it Lara Croft Tomb Raider, starring Alicia Vikander, I think that's how you say it. In her time at Warner Brothers, Kuykendall has worked on movies such as Stephen King's It, Kong Skull Island, Guy Ritchie's King Arthur, Legend of the Sword, everything, as well as Magic Mike XXL, The Lego Movie, Edge of Tomorrow, Argo, Contagion. Niija is a graduate of Brown University and began her career as an editorial associate in corporate communications for Viacom. In 2004, Kuykendall moved home to LA to work in film as a development assistant for Beacon Pictures. She then moved to 20th Century Fox as a creative executive before joining Warner Brothers Pictures in 2008. Niija has been profiled as one of Variety's Hollywood's new leaders, Glamour Magazine's 35 Under 35 Women in Hollywood, and Essence Magazine's 13 Power Players in Hollywood. She is a member of the American Film Institute's Women Executive Circle, a board member of the Emma Bowen Foundation for Multicultural Interest in Media, and a member of the executive branch of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. Niija. My goodness. And it's like what a life you've led.
Sounds so official.
I know every time I read people's bio, they're always like, "Oh, is that me?" And I'm like, "Yes, this is you." Okay. Before we get into this, I have to tell everyone listening that Niija and I first met, I think, in the 4th grade in Inglewood at Good Shepherd Lutheran School. And Niija, one thing I remember about you is that you always had a book with you. And I was, like a super bookworm back then, but I just noticed and I felt like you were always reading like advanced things. So are you still like constantly reading like you were in the 4th grade?
Absolutely. I mean,
really?
Now I don't get a chance to read as much for pleasure, and it's quite enjoyable and a treat when I do get a chance to read for pleasure, because part of my job is I'm reading screenplays, books, anything that needs to be consumed to be considered for a movie. So, that's my job, is to consume culture, popular culture stories, and figure out what could or could not be, potential for a movie.
Got it. Okay.
So I read lots of screenplays and lots of books.
Right. Okay. So your current title, Senior Vice President, Production at Warner Brothers, as someone who maybe watches one movie a year, what exactly would you say that you do? Like, for me, I don't know.
Sure. So my job, I'm very similar to a producer, but on behalf of the studio. So my job is to look for ideas, scripts, remake potential, anything, pitches, anywhere where there is an idea, a story idea, and hire writers to write a screenplay of that. I work with the writers to develop the screenplay and make the best screenplay that we possibly can get. Once a screenplay is ready, I'm the person who is meeting and advocating and hiring directors to direct the movies.
Oh, wow.
Once I have advocated for that movie with my bosses and my leadership, and I've been given the green light or the go ahead to make the movie, I'm working with my colleagues to figure out budget, the right location, the right schedule, all of the things that go into making a movie and prepping for a movie. Once a movie's in production, I oversee production, meaning I'm not on set the whole time, but I am here in the office. I watch dailies, I watch footage, all the footage that's shot on set every day.
Wow.
I often visit set, and my job is just to make sure everything's going smoothly, everything looks great, quality control, make sure my director feels supported, make sure all of my filmmakers, my whole team feels supported, translate what's going on set to my leadership here at Warner Brothers. And then once a movie's in post-production, I am the person who will see a cut of the movie along with a few of my colleagues and give notes to the director on the cut of the movie. So I'm kind of like a project leader from the beginning to the end of the movie in terms of just making a movie.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that all
No, that
Make
was
sense?
that really helped me to understand that, like, okay, you like you said, you're spending a lot of your days reading screenplays, and then you find something that you like, and then you start the process of like, who will direct this?
Hmm.
Do you work with the writers too? Do they? I would feel like they would have somebody in mind already, but is that your decision, or is that like a we make this decision together?
It usually starts with the writer and the screenplay.
Okay. Okay.
And sometimes a director will come in with an idea with the writer. You know, the whole thing will come in, and I will say, "Oh, I love this. I want to do this with you." But
Mhm.
more often than not, it starts with the writer. It starts with the writer's idea. It starts with
Okay.
the writer's screenplay, and the idea grows and evolves from there. A director
Okay.
comes aboard usually once a screenplay already has been through several drafts and you're
Okay.
already excited about the script. Then you
Got
go
it.
out and you look for a director.
Okay.
There's also several directors who are writer directors, so they write their own material.
Okay. Okay. That's helpful. But okay, I'm going to take some steps back, and this is known as a career podcast, and I think a lot of people that listen to me, they may be in college right now. So I want to know, what did you go to college for? Like I just did a my last podcast talked about how I think it's more than half of the people who graduate college don't do what they went to school to do. So, what did you go to college for?
Not this. But you know, it's actually not that far off the mark. As you
Okay.
mentioned, I was a huge bookworm growing up.
Mhm.
I
Yes.
total nerd. My nose always in a book. I loved everything. I
Mhm.
love stories. I love people. I love stories. And so when I went into school, and I also was a photographer, an artist
Oh,
growing up. I was editor of school newspaper, photo editor of school newspaper in high school.
okay.
I was a photographer for the school newspaper in college. I was very visually driven.
Mhm.
And so when I entered into college, I went to Brown University. When I started, I thought I wanted to be a photojournalist and documentary filmmaker. My
Okay.
major, I was doing a double major in anthropology and media studies. And
Okay.
I had an advisor. Her name is Lena Frizzetti, who's a professor at Brown, and she was an anthropology professor, and she did work on gender issues and studies in India. And she would write books and do her research, but she'd also create these films and make documentaries. And I kind of wanted to do something like that, where I was very much into like National Geographic growing up, and I thought I was going to be this like world traveler, you know,
Mhm.
taking photographs of cultures and people and creating documentary films when I, you know, dug deeper into a specific issue or culture.
Okay.
So that's what I thought I was going to do.
Oh, and so what happened after that? So you graduate.
So what actually happened
Okay.
is towards the end of sophomore year of college,
Mhm.
I took an independent study on Black women filmmakers because
Oh,
all
wow.
throughout the first like year and a half, I was taking media studies classes at Brown. It's called Modern Culture and Media, and there were all these classes on film theory, and it was very interesting, but it was all, I was reading all about Lacan and Freud and all these white
Mhm.
European male theorists. And we were studying classic Hollywood cinema and European cinema. And it was fascinating, but at the end of the day, I didn't feel like it really related to me as a Black woman. So I had the opportunity to do an independent study with a few other classmates, and we studied Black women filmmakers. And I saw Daughters of the Dust, which is a film made by Julie Dash, written and directed by Julie Dash. And I saw that movie and fell in love and felt like the movie is about the Gullah culture. The Gullah Islands are islands off the coast of South Carolina and
Right. Right.
Georgia.
Right.
And were able to retain a lot of their African traditions and culture and language from being slaves, you know, off the slave
Wow.
ships because they were so isolated on the island. So the movie is this melodramatic, wonderful movie about a family that is about to migrate north and all these different dramas happening in the family. And I saw that movie and thought, wow, this is like everything that I am interested in one piece
Mhm.
of work. It's anthropology. It's a study of a people in a very specific place and a culture. It's visually beautiful.
Mhm.
You know, they managed with that movie to shoot Black skin in a way that hadn't really been shot before. It was just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous shooting.
Okay.
And it was stories, a great storytelling. And as we all know now, I'm a huge fan of stories and grew up loving reading and stories. So
Right.
I felt like, wow, like this is amazing. And I started thinking, if I do feature narrative or study feature narrative, I can kind of study anything I want through feature narrative. I don't have to be bound by reality, which you are when you're doing documentary or journalism. I grew up reading The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. Like I can study a certain issue through the lens of science fiction. I can study a certain issue through the lens of a true story if I so choose. I can kind of do whatever I want. The sky's the limit with feature narrative. So I actually started focusing on that and studying feature narrative through the lens of Black women filmmakers, anthropology, African American studies. I ended up doing my own concentration, mixing several disciplines, and ended up doing my thesis as a comparative study between Julie Dash and Gloria Orlando, who's an Afro-Cuban filmmaker focusing on Afro-Cuban culture. So that's what I ended up doing in school. At the time, I also received a fellowship to get my PhD. So I was leaning towards an academic route where I was going to go and continue doing that type of study in grad school. And just write and study and watch movies and theorize and be a nerd, which I'm perfectly happy doing.
Right. But obviously things took a turn.
Yes, things took a turn. So I graduated and ended up deciding to take a few years off of school before going to start my grad work because I wanted to just work and make money and be an adult. And all my friends were moving to New York City. I wanted to move to New York City. And so I took a little bit of time off from the fellowship and ended up getting a job at King World CBS International in New York, assisting the president. I got that job because all throughout undergrad, I was an intern here in LA at ABC Entertainment through the Emma Bowen Foundation for Multicultural Interest in Media, which is a scholarship internship program that places students in media companies all around the country. And it's an internship, and the company also matches what they pay you to put into a scholarship fund for college. So ABC greatly helped with Brown. But I had no interest in being a television executive. I would come, I would float throughout comedy, drama, movies and minis, broadcasting standards. I learned a ton. I got to read scripts. It was really interesting to me, but really it informed my studies in terms of storytelling. I didn't really, even through that experience, I wasn't like, I'm going to be an executive, but it was an amazing experience. And when I graduated, that program, someone on the board of that program actually helped me get the job at King World CBS International.
Okay. So
I did that. First job. I did that for about 6 months and I got laid off. My boss took early retirement, so my position was eliminated. But they came to me and they said it was a very interesting lesson to learn just out of college in terms of that's life. That's a part of this world. Things happen and
6 months.
Exactly. And you gotta you kind of have to roll with the punches and always evolve your plan. So they came to me and they said, listen, don't worry. We love you. We think that you'd be a great fit somewhere here in Viacom. Viacom owns, King World CBS. So just sit tight. We want to pitch you around the company. And they did. And I ended up getting a job in corporate communications for Viacom Corporate as the editorial associate of Viacom Corporate Communications, reporting to the spokesperson. So I was an assistant / writer. I would write shareholder newsletters. I would write speeches, first drafts of speeches, kind of whatever little writing. I would also just assist and help, my boss, who was one of the spokespersons of Viacom. And it was a really exciting job that I actually ended up doing for several years. Because Viacom owns MTV, BET, CBS, Paramount, all these companies.
Wow.
So for a minute, I had like a great little life. I had an apartment in Brooklyn. I had this great job where I had access to, because we were corporate, we had access to all the different divisions. I had friends at MTV. I had friends kind of all over the company. And it was really exciting, to be in this kind of fast-paced environment. But shortly, a year or two into that, and by this time I had decided not to go back to school. A year or two into that, I got really unhappy because I wasn't creative enough. I was writing about Paramount and the movies they were making. I was writing about what MTV, but I wasn't there. I felt like I was on the outside looking in. I always had ideas. I would go down to MTV and like pitch them show ideas. You know.
Right.
So after a while, I kind of just started just as a hobby and for a creative outlet. I started doing film criticism and writing film reviews for an online magazine called blackfilm.com.
Okay.
And really, I did it for free. I got into movies for free. I got to see things before they were released. I was happy. So I started writing the film reviews. Through that, I met Chica, my dear friend Chica, who became a junior executive for Killer Films, which was a production company, a well-known production company in New York City that at the time had just made Boys Don't Cry, an Oscar-winning movie that I had seen and loved. So we became really close through writing these film reviews together and going to these movies together. And she one day said to me, why don't you come and do script coverage for us, which is basically almost like a book review for a screenplay.
Okay.
So you read the script, you write what it's about, you write the synopsis, and then your opinion. So I started doing that on the side. And then somehow through that, I ended up meeting someone who worked for Lee Daniels. And he had not become a director yet. He was a producer at the time, and he was in post-production on The Woodsman. And I started doing script coverage for them, and met and got to know Lee really well. And I still had this corporate full-time job.
But on the side,
I would either go uptown to Lee's office in Harlem and do script coverage, or I'd go downtown to Killer Films in Soho and do script coverage.
Were you getting paid for any of the side stuff?
No, you don't, and not getting paid, but just, by the way, didn't have a plan. Just loved this world.
Right.
And loved being able to see the world and being able to read scripts and being able to see movies for free and being able to hear like the conversation and the dialogue about movies. I just loved. I didn't have like a plan yet. Right.
Okay.
So I started to think, this is what I want to do. I want to produce. So I started to go up for jobs that were creative and in film. I went up a few times to be a director's assistant. I went up for a job to be a development assistant at Miramax, I remember. There were a few of those types of jobs that would pop up. But New York City has a great but very small film community. It's really in Los Angeles. So I really was hitting a lot of roadblocks in terms of finding an actual paying job in this world and getting very discouraged, because I would go up for these jobs and they would say, well, you've been several years at Viacom in corporate communications. You're perfect for marketing. And I'm I don't want marketing. If I wanted to do marketing, I would stay where I am. You know, I have a great job. So I would get really frustrated. And so I just more and more started to just explore and do more on the side, you know, after work and on the weekends. I would do production work on the weekends. I was a production assistant for a few productions that came to New York, and that would pay me extra cash. I volunteered for the Tribeca Film Festival a few times. So I was just hustling, just trying to figure out how do I get my foot in the door. So after a few years of that, I, through all of that, met Effie Brown, who's an amazing producer. And she called me up one day, because I would always see her and we would like riff, and I would pitch her my movie ideas and my TV ideas, and I always had ideas for stories. And so one day she called me up and said, the Sundance Directors Lab is looking for a PA. In Sundance, Utah. It's for the summer. It's not a job, because once it's over, it's over. They'll pay you a per diem, and they provide room and board. So you really have to consider this, because you'd have to leave your job for a little bit,
and not have a job when it's over.
Not have a job when it's over. And I really wanted to do it. So she was like, this is an amazing experience for someone like you who's interested in film. It's an amazing experience, and it's hard to get in to do that. So I can get you in. Think about it. Let me know. And so I thought about it, and I really wanted to do it, but I am the responsible kid who knew she had to have a job when she graduated from college. So the thought of leaving a job without a job never crossed my mind. I went to my boss and I said, could I get a leave of absence? Because there's this opportunity that I would love to go experience. It's not a job. I'm not out there to go get another job. It's in Sundance, Utah, but I would love to experience this. And my boss knew I was interested in the creative side of things, and was really supportive of me. And she says, and I had seen other people take leaves of absences in corporate. So I was just very young and naive, even asking for it. Because now I think back and I was like, wow. What was I thinking?
Right. You're like, let me talk to you for a second. Okay, so
just give me a few months off.
Right. To do something
and
not related
back.
to this.
Yeah.
Right.
So to her credit, she was amazing to me and is still a friend. To her credit, she did not laugh in my face, but she did say, I love you. You have this job as long as you want it. You're great. But, you're too young to compromise. Like, you have to choose. I'm not going to give you a leave of absence. You have to make a decision. You can stay here if you want, or you got to do your thing. And in that room, I said, well, I guess I quit. So I quit.
Okay. Wow.
Without intending to. So I called my parents to tell them I quit. My dad is like, Sumner Redstone, you're working your way up the corporate ladder. What are you doing with your life?
Right.
Completely,
wow.
What? You're crazy. What are you doing?
That was crazy.
Was crazy. But you know what? It was crazy. But once I did it, I did not look back. I did not second guess myself once I did it. I didn't expect to do it, but once I did it, I was like, all right, I'm going to Sundance.
Right.
And I did, and I loved it. I loved it because you spend your days, you eat, breathe, talk, smell. Everything is film. Everything is story. Yes. Everything is creative. And you're there with other people who are very like-minded. And it was quite amazing as an experience. And so I go through that experience and I come back to New York and I go see a mentor of mine who at the time was the head of Paramount in New York. And through my years at Viacom, I had gotten to know her because I think we sat next to each other at a luncheon.
Okay.
And she was this cool older woman. She had leather pants on. And I remember being like, this woman looks really cool. I love her leather pants. And I introduced myself to her. And she ends up she runs the New York department of Paramount. So I would just go and hang out with her and, really just ask questions about just storytelling and the film business, every couple of months. And so we developed a great relationship over a few years. And when I finally made this jump and came back from Sundance, I went to see her and she's like, you have to move back to LA. And so I make the decision to go back to LA, and she says, when you get there, here's someone I want you to reach out to. He's like a son to me, and his first job in the movie business was as my assistant. He'll be he'll be your brother. So I reached out to him and he said, I just so happen to be changing companies and I'm looking for an assistant.
Wow.
Send me your resume. And he sends me 2 scripts to read, and I give him my opinion. I do a little write-up on both scripts, and he basically says, I love your resume, I love your background, I love your ideas, I would love to work with you, so when can you get to LA? And so I was like, immediately, next week. Although I had not booked a flight, but
Right.
So I make my way back to LA, and I end up starting at Beacon Pictures as an assistant. I end up being there for about 2 years. My second year there, my boss, who is amazing and was a great support and mentor of mine, my second year there, Bring It On All or Nothing came up, which is a straight-to-DVD movie. And everyone was too busy to deal with this small straight-to-DVD movie.
That's like the cheerleader thing, right?
It's the cheerleader movie, And I think they're on Bring It On 10 now or something like that. I don't even know. It's a very successful cheerleader movie.
Okay.
So it was the third movie. It was going straight to DVD. It was an $8 million budget. He basically went to the president of the company and said, we're also busy working on these big, huge budget movies. Someone needs to oversee this. Why don't you let Niija do it? She's smart. She's responsible. She won't fuck up. She can report to both of us on this. She'll still be on the desk dealing with my stuff, but I think she can do it. And she's the closest to the audience, being young, female, being of color. The movies are very multicultural, which is the great thing about the movies. Let her run with it. And they say yes. So I ended up being the executive on the movie for my company and worked closely with Universal. And I'm still an assistant. So it's really stressful, right? Because I'm trying to hire a writer to write the script. I'm trying to hire a director. I end up being on set. I oversee this movie from beginning to end. And they give me at the time a BlackBerry. And I'm confirming lunches. That's how you date yourself, right? Like,
but I think in the game, like once you got a BlackBerry, you were like moving on up.
Oh, for sure.
But definitely date yourself. But before so $8 million is considered low budget?
Well, for that,
sort of?
For that, that was a high budget for straight to DVD.
Okay,
but
they
they considered that title, and I think they're still making them. So it clearly, it's quite lucrative for them, but they considered that title a marquee title for them. So because the second one had done so well, the first one did amazingly well, the second one had done so well, so this was very important for Universal, and they considered it a marquee title, so they gave it a little bit more budget than they would normally give it, right? So so I did that, and the whole time I was an assistant, so I would be on set confirming lunches on my BlackBerry for my boss, and still doing the assistant duties, and then running and doing the duties for the movie, and finished the movie. And by the time I finished the movie, they came to me and said, "We love you. You did such an amazing job of this movie. It's going to do really well for us. It tested really well. We'd love to promote you, but we are closing shop." So I ended up starting to look for other jobs because I couldn't be promoted there, and ended up getting a job at 20th Century Fox as a creative executive, which essentially means a junior executive. You're like a manager level. At the studio. And while I was there, I worked on movies like Hitman and Alien versus Predator 2 and a bunch of Fox movies. I was there for about a year and a half. And my duty was just to basically support and service the senior executives, the VPs, and work on the movies. And traditionally at these big studios, there's usually two people on a movie, a senior executive and a junior executive. And the junior executive is doing the notes, and you're reading lots of scripts because you need to know who's out there. You're reading all the samples because you need to know what new writers are around. You're helping with notes on a screenplay. You're helping with notes on the cut of the movie, or whatever the senior executive needs. You're there to kind of inform and help with. You're advocating for new talent, you're tracking new talent, you're going to festivals, things of that nature. So I was there for about a year and a half, and then ended up leaving because it just wasn't a right fit culturally for me. And I didn't quite love it, and I left and then didn't think I was going to go to another studio. I thought I was going to go to a smaller, I kind of thought maybe I'm supposed to be at a smaller shop. Maybe I'm supposed to be at a production company, and be just more entrepreneurial. And, but two talent agents, who I was friendly with and who were great helps and guidances to me, put me up for a job at Warner Brothers, a lateral move, a job to be a CE at Warner Brothers. And I remember saying to both of them, I don't think this is for me. And were both like, you will go meet on this job. And I'm like, okay, out of respect. And, I'm very curious. Warner Brothers was making movies that I loved. So I really respected what they did and the movies that they made. So I went on the job interviews and ended up getting the job within a week. I met everyone very quickly and got the job offer within a week, and ultimately decided, you know what? The key important thing is they make movies that I love. And I'm so excited I would be really happy to work on some of these movies that they've made over the past couple of years. And so it's okay to try it, and, I can move on if it doesn't work. And so I started at Warner Brothers, and it's been 9 years.
So you're racing against the clock to wrap 3 projects. You're prepping for a meeting later in the afternoon. All the while, you are still trying to tackle that mountain of paperwork. Welcome to life as a freelancer. Challenging? Yes. But our friends at FreshBooks believe the rewards are so worth it. Let's face it, the working world has changed. With the growth of the internet, there's never been more opportunities for the self-employed. To meet this need, my friends at FreshBooks are excited to announce the launch of an all-new version of their cloud accounting software. It's been redesigned from the ground up and custom built for exactly the way you work, Get ready for the simplest way to be more productive, organized, and most importantly, get paid quickly. The all new FreshBooks is not only ridiculously easy to use, it's also packed full of powerful features. What are they, you ask? You can create and send professional looking invoices in less than 30 seconds. You can set up online payments with just a couple of clicks and get paid up to 4 days faster. We love that. You can see when your client has seen your invoice and put an end to the guessing games. FreshBooks is offering a 30-day unrestricted free trial to my listeners. To claim it, just go to freshbooks.com/mytaughtyou and enter My Taught You in the How Did You Hear About Us section. Okay, I have read Glamour magazine featured you in a piece that said it's like, look who's running Hollywood. So after all that you have done in 9 years where you are, do you feel like that? Like, do you ever look at these pieces written about you and go, am I really?
I don't feel like that at all.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm in the trenches. I'm trying to figure out what my next movie is. I'm trying to finish the movies I'm in post-production on. I'm trying to finish the movie I'm in production on. Like, I am trying to make things. And I'm also trying to, at this point, be a great mentor and be a great colleague and be a great leader, in my company, in my community. So there's so many things. This world can be, and this career can be very all consuming. And so rarely do I have time to kind of stop and take a look and say like, oh, you're running things, like, because I'm not running things. I'm proud of myself. I think I've accomplished a lot, but there's so much more to accomplish. So I don't ever. It's kind of a shock to the system sometimes.
I know. And I told you this too. I read, and I was searching high and low for it because I know for a fact I read this, that it said that you were considered one of the highest ranked Black women in film.
Yes.
They said that. I'm not like, they said this.
Yes. And I don't know who said that. So I've got to find that too.
I have to find it because I was like, I read it and I'm like, oh my God, I know Niija. But I guess,
fourth grade.
Yes, fourth grade. I'm like, that has to be, as a woman of color, I know and understand the challenges, but do you ever at any point, when you're in rooms or you're doing these things, I think when I think of like a studio exec, I think of like sunglasses, all black, like, that it's hard. I don't feel like I would see us in the room. So like when you started like walking in these rooms, how did you feel? Like, did you feel like I am a Black woman, or did you just come like I came to work?
No, I think that it's natural to feel like I felt like I came to work, clearly there's not that many of me in town.
Right.
Clearly that's, I'm used to that. I went to Brown, like I went to a Ivy League that, is getting better, but I have been in situations before that I've not been, I've been the minority in the room or the only one in the room. It's not a new scenario for me. But I think when you have a goal and you have a passion, you get into a situation and I just was working, when I started at Warner Brothers as a CE, there'd be times I'd be here till midnight doing the work, like it was a, fulfilling, exciting, and difficult job when I first started off, just because of the volume and everything that we were doing. And you're just working. And you're trying to figure out how to navigate and what's the best version of being an executive. And, how do I be in a room with amazingly brilliant colleagues and we're talking story and debating story. How can I assert my voice, and never really did I think I'm walking through these hallways and I'm a Black woman walking through these hallways. Now there definitely were situations and have been and probably will continue to be situations where, yes, this screenplay we're talking about and I'm uncomfortable with it because it's offensive or whatever issue may come up because I am a Black woman. And that's who I am. And that's a part of my value is being that voice at the table.
Yes.
that has a very specific point of view, and comes from a very specific place and has a very specific experience. So there's definitely times where, I have a certain perspective because I am a Black woman. But
right. And have you always felt comfortable speaking up?
yes, I have.
Okay.
Look, I don't think it's easy for everybody, but I think I just was raised in a way that that I've always been pretty comfortable with my voice. I think it's all about also learning, and I think this comes with time and with mentorship and with being aware and listening. I think it's also learning how to articulate things so that people hear them.
Right.
Which is a part of my job. A part of my job on a day-to-day basis is working with directors and working with writers and working with artists, essentially. So a lot of my job is figuring out, how do I give this note, or how do I give this idea or suggestion or this constructive criticism in a way that this artist will hear me, and not, so I think that also is a part of being, a person of color in a world that you may be the only one or two. It's like, okay, what's the way to articulate my point of view in a way that everyone here can understand it,
right,
and hear it. And sometimes it's unfortunate that, it's the same diversity conversation of like, why do we have to be the one, but sometimes it is what it is and you are the only one. So, but I think what's great about the environment I'm in right now is that, I've been here for 9 years. I know everyone really well. They know me really well. I'm always honest about my point of view and my opinion and my perspective, no matter what it's about. It could be about race. It could be about anything. So if it is about race, people trust me and they respect it because I am who I am, no matter what the issue is.
Right. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was that your question? Because maybe
no,
I went on a tangent.
No, it was. You got it. You got it. Okay. So my next question is about being invited to be a member of the Academy, aka the Oscars. How does this happen and what does it mean?
It's really amazing. It didn't really hit me until I just got like my membership card and certificate, and it's very official.
Okay.
It happens because you're nominated by your peers in the business, by one or two of your peers. Okay. And, so I was nominated, and, we just went through a whole last couple of years where there's been a lot of talk, a lot of dialogue about inclusion.
Oscar so white.
Yeah. And so I think that, we're in a moment in time where the whole business is very self-reflective and very much examining like the community and what should we be doing and who is a part of the community and how can we better reflect the world. But it's still a very, it's a very kind of strict, interesting process that actually I don't really know that much about. I know that you're nominated and you have to get recommendations and people to speak on your behalf. Okay. And I'm really excited to join because I know the Academy is doing a lot of initiatives and things that I'm really interested in, as far as mentoring young people and, diversity inclusion. And recently I spoke to, they have a program called Academy Gold that that is an mentorship program for college students. Nice. And so I went and did kind of a talk with them, and so it's great because I feel like there's so much potential for me to dig in and be a part of that community.
And so that means that you have a vote for Oscars. Okay.
Yes.
So wow. I mean, that's incredible. That is huge. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to move over into some sort of like career tip questions, for the young adults that are listening. I want to help them understand, maybe to get things maybe sooner than maybe we did. So if you could tell us 2 things you've seen entry level, assistants and those just starting out do that may be potentially damaging to their career in the long run, what would they be? And if you don't have 2, 1 is fine. But like, what is something that you've seen or that happens in the age of social media? Like, what should people be doing or not doing?
in the as specifically as it pertains to social media, or
I know, or
just
I'm just
in
saying
general?
anything. Like back when we started, like
Yeah.
entry level, I think it's just different now.
Yeah.
And so people starting out, I just think there's just so much like
Well,
people couldn't reach you before. You know, now they can.
mhm.
I don't know. They can tweet you. They
They
can.
definitely can. And I definitely get lots of people reaching out to me every day.
Yes,
And I
yes.
try to share and be as accessible as possible.
Right.
Sometimes it's difficult, but
Yes.
so I think one of the things is, that I notice. I notice a lot because I did it clearly from my story. It's just the hustle. I do think that young people, there's a little bit of an entitlement right now, because this is an age where you have folks, tech startups and folks that are young and 21 and 19 starting these multi-billion-dollar companies and this and that and the other, and that's amazing. But and so as a result, I feel like there's a generation or two that has kind of grown up and is coming of age with this perspective of, it comes very easily and very early and very fast success.
Right. Yes.
And I think it's great because they're so ambitious.
Yes.
And clearly there is so much opportunity out there, and there is opportunity to go start your own business and do whatever you want to do, which is amazing. But one of the things that I think I struggle with when I see people starting their careers now is seeing, my big question for assistants and for folks who are coming in to meet with me or get advice is really like, how much of a hustler is this person? Like, does this person really want it? And if this person does really want it, does this person have have what it takes to get it? Will they, if you're an intern, will you make copies of things? Will you go get coffee and not feel that it's beneath you? Will you just do whatever it is to be in the room when we're talking about a screenplay? Because that's what I did. I hustled and I did several internships and things for free while I had a full-time job. And then the other thing is, it doesn't come fast. And sometimes if it does come fast, that's not necessarily a good thing. I have seen folks who have been entry level and young, kind of rise the ranks very quickly and not be prepared for, so for me, it's kind of like really being an entry level person and having entry level position. That's a blessing, especially in Hollywood. The way our entry level jobs work, when you're an assistant, traditionally, when you're an assistant in a creative department in television or film, you're really like an apprentice. You're on my assistant's on all of my phone calls. He reads everything I read, everything that happens. He's aware of. I want his opinion on things. So really, it's almost like grad school being an assistant, because you are essentially hearing very sensitive conversations and learning the politics, the navigation, or even just reading a script and having a creative dialogue. So like, to really be able to be entry level and be in those positions and appreciate what it is, I feel like I see too often, more recently, people not appreciating that.
Okay. Yeah.
That opportunity.
I agree. I'm right there with you. And that's really why I love to do this podcast, is that I have on a lot of different successful people that I know, and the stories, like there's a common thread of just like hard work and time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I think I will say the second thing that I think especially with women and young people of color, I think also, and just young people in general, it's just having the confidence, like you asked earlier about, like, how do you find your voice, and I'm blessed to have just been raised and, I'm very opinionated and and have opinions on everything. But I think also just kind of really being passionate and knowing that no matter what, your point of view is valid. Because especially in these businesses, these are subjective. This is a creative business. TV is a creative business. Film is a creative business. These are subjective businesses by nature, because it's all about, what do people like? What are they drawn to? What are they attracted to? And it's really interesting because it's a little bit daunting, because for me, in my position, I have to read a screenplay and I have to decide, okay, I love this. This moves me. okay, it's going to move millions of other people too. And so that's okay though. It's okay for me to have I have my point of view. I have the things that I'm drawn to. My colleague has a different point of view. He has things that he's drawn to. The colleague across the table has a very different point of view and things that he or she is drawn to. So for a young person coming into the workplace, especially in a creative industry like, Hollywood, I would say trust your opinion, trust yourself, trust your point of view. Really, it's about having a point of view and learning how to articulate that point of view. I think that's one of the most important things of being in this business.
Okay.
So, and to trust that, because everybody's different, and honestly, you're servicing an audience that's really diverse and really different. Everyone's different in that audience. So,
right.
Anyway, that's the second thing.
Those are your two. Okay. Yeah. I think sometimes
and by the way, Malik, I say that those are my two. I say that to say because I feel like I meet a lot of young people who come in doubting themselves.
Okay. All the time.
Questioning their judgment and questioning their opinion and their point of view and how they feel. And I get a lot of questions about how do you have the confidence to pursue this? Or how do you have the confidence? How do you know when it's time to really advocate for something? And I'm like, I can't answer that for you. You know when you're passionate about something or not.
Right. That's so true. And just having the guts to be wrong, or it may not even be wrong. It just may not be on target for whatever.
Exactly.
My friend always says, Malik, you have no bad ideas. It's just, are they profitable ideas? If
Absolutely.
we're doing business, you know?
Oh, there's things all the time that I read or that I see and I'm drawn to, and I get so excited about it. That's the first filter. Do I get excited about this? Am I passionate about it? Do I see something in this that I can relate to? The second filter, because I am a Warner Brothers executive, the second filter is, okay, what makes this a Warner Brothers movie? How can I make this what's the strategy? How would I make this a Warner Brothers movie? Okay. Then there's a third, there's several filters that lead me to, okay, I'm gonna buy this screenplay.
Okay. Got it. And that's just because you've learned to trust yourself, or you probably always have over the years.
It gets better over the years as you get older and have more experience.
Right.
And your judgment and point of view becomes more informed by experience.
That's true. True.
So.
Right. Okay. So I have this question. Sometimes we get into industries because maybe we're fans, we love this actor, we love this film. How, did you ever have like some kind of fan moments? Have you ever seen that? And how does one manage that?
Fan moment, as in meeting an actor that I always loved, or
yes.
I don't really have many fan moments.
Okay.
I definitely have some geek out moments. I guess my fan moments really happen with, like, there's directors that I've had an opportunity to meet and have been really lucky and really blessed to meet that I grew up loving or watching, or, love their work. And, definitely, like I've met Tony Scott. I've met Ridley Scott. I grew up watching their movies. They're iconic to me. But for me, you kind of have to put that aside, the fan factor, because I also have to work with that person. So, So you kind of have to. So I'm trying to think of any time where I wasn't able to put it aside.
Right.
I'm no fun. I can't really.
No, it's okay. It's all right.
I feel like I would really freak out if I met Sidney Poitier. Oh, here's a fan moment.
Okay.
And I kind of regret it. And so this is a lesson to everyone listening to seize the moment. I probably would freak out at meeting Sidney Poitier, because he's iconic and amazing. And I went to an event and pulled up to the valet at the event, and out walked Sidney Poitier because he's, waiting for his driver. He was being escorted by someone. And I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh, it's Sidney Poitier. You need to get out of this car and you need to introduce yourself. And I did not do it. And so I always regretted that. So I wish I had done that. And that was a fan moment, because I'm usually not, I'm usually not shy and will do that if I want to, but it just froze. So
I think that happens.
Yes.
Yes, I feel like that about Oprah. Like if I ever met Oprah, like I don't think in my mind I think I would say something, but in real life I don't think I would say anything.
Yes, you
Yeah.
would. Yes, you would.
You think
Yes,
so?
I think so.
Okay, so I have my last question for you, and then we answer a listener question. But my last
Okay.
question for you is, when you're interviewing, what are you looking for? So I know you were saying like you like hustle, but what is something that sort of uh, excites you or gets like, oh, this is the one,
Yeah.
or I definitely want to have this person on my team.
Um, so yes, definitely hustle, definitely a dedication, to this business,
Mhm.
to their own career. And then, I want people who are passionate about what we do.
Yeah.
So a lot of the questioning is about, what do you love? What movies do you love? And
Hmm.
and it's okay to have a difference of like taste. That's totally
Right.
fine. By the way, that's what we're looking for. We want a difference of
Right.
taste around the
Okay.
room, in the room, around the table.
Mhm.
But so I'm looking for, like, what is this person's knowledge of this business? What is
Mhm.
this person's knowledge of film? What is this person's knowledge of screenplays? Because even if you have never worked in this business, there's ways to learn. There's ways to, you could be reading trades every single day,
Mhm.
Variety, Deadline, Hollywood Reporter, and at least get a sense of who are the players, what's going on, oh,
Right.
this announcement just happened, so and so is doing this movie, or this is how Comic-Con went, oh great, these
Right.
are the movies that are coming out, oh, this is who won at Sundance. You
Right.
could do that and be in Timbuktu, so
Right.
um, and come into my office and have a little bit of an awareness of the business that would impress me, right? um,
Right.
I want to know what your taste is. So I want you to tell me, what it would be no good. I don't, I would probably not hire you for a job here if you couldn't tell me like a few of your favorite movies of the year, or if you don't go see movies.
Right. I would
Like,
not.
why,
Why are you here?
yeah, why are you here? So,
Yeah.
and then there's also ways to be reading screenplays as well. And so really I'm always asking kind of, what do you want to do? Like, who do you love? Is there someone new I should be aware of?
Mhm.
What writers do you love? I also ask about, why do you want this job? Why Warner Brothers? Why this?
Okay.
There's something interesting. I feel like there's some people that come in and they're like, I want to be a studio executive. And it annoys me a little bit,
Yeah.
because for me and by the way, maybe it's just because it wasn't how I just wanted to make movies, so I went
Right.
where they would let me make movies.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
so I think it's okay to want to be a studio executive, but what does that mean? Like, what
Right.
do you really
Right.
want to do? What do you want your
Right.
days to be? What are you passionate about?
Right.
So it's a little bit of that. I also ask about your life. I also want to
Yeah.
know how well rounded you are.
Mhm.
I think being a producer or a studio executive really is about culture, being well read, being well
Right.
traveled, being exposed to people,
Mhm.
being aware of what's going on in the world, because it's all about, we sift through and process popular culture and stories. So
Right.
it's not necessarily about being in, it gets difficult because this is a very all-consuming world, but it also gets very dangerous to be kind of like stuck in a bubble where it's
Yeah.
just films and it's just
Right.
Hollywood. Because I don't know how you make good material. You don't make good movies or good content if you're only exposed to your community and your world.
Right.
So I'm also
That.
very curious about, what else do you do? I don't want
Mhm.
you to come in and this is it. This is all you
Right.
do.
Right. Right.
What are your
Um,
hobbies? What do you love? What
right.
else? So
Right. Awesome. Okay, so we're getting to the listener question, and I just would love your advice. I usually chime in and give some advice too, but I've edited the question down a little bit. But she says, I'm the director of communications at a healthcare organization. I do PR, graphic design, communications, and I love what I get to do. She kind of explains the company. There's a parent company, and so on and so forth. And then she just says it's a hot, horrible mess. So she says, since I've been here, I've done a ton of good for the branch that I function in, and I've even been asked to do corporate communication projects. I've been getting recognized for the work that I've been producing, and I've been rewarded with even more work. However, I have two dilemmas. So we'll answer the first one. She says, number one, how do I bring up the compensation issue? I'm taking on more work and I want to be compensated for it. And to be clear, the work isn't just a project or two. I've prayed for this, but I need to have the money conversation with my immediate boss. My initial thought is to take on the work and then make a case for more money, but I'm interested in your thoughts. Should I bring it up first or wait until I get in good? What do you think, Niija?
I think she should take on the work and then bring it up after she's started the job, because I find, and this has happened with me in the past as well, and it's interesting because I've had mentors say this to me as well. A lot of times in companies, you do the job before you actually get the job.
Yes.
And that's okay.
They need to see that you can do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's it's totally okay, because, by the way, once you have been doing the job, it gives you that much more leverage and power. Not only externally with your boss and your colleagues, but also with yourself, to know your value and to know what you deserve, and to be able to then walk into that room and have an honest conversation with your boss. So I say, I think, don't be afraid to go ahead and take on that work. Now, don't be afraid to have that conversation when the time is right. Definitely have that conversation. As a matter of fact, like, it could be worth having a mini version of the conversation now as you are taking on the work, saying, I'm so excited for this opportunity. Thank you. I'm excited to take on this extra responsibility. I'm ready for it. I want to grow in this company, and I want to start keeping really some good track of my trajectory with you, because I want to grow. My goal, my aspirations at this company are X.
Right.
And then take on that work and go have a follow-up conversation once you've been doing that job.
Right. Warm it up. Okay. This is her second dilemma, Niija. She says, this is the big one. There's a person who does something similar to what I do. She oversees marketing, but has historically managed sales. Since I've come onto the scene, I've really excited the organization. I've caught the attention of upper management, and that hasn't escaped her notice. Since she's not creative, I'm a writer, designer, and strategic communicator. She's latched on to me or my talents. I've done some really exciting work for the organization I represent. Okay. Recently, she made a power move and formed a committee to do strategic communications for the parent company. She asked me to participate on the committee. This is a strategic move on her part to stay relevant and to remain a part of the marketing conversation that takes place in the broader organization. Here's my question, Myleik. How should I maneuver this? If I participate, she runs the show, but I do the work. If I don't participate, then I miss out on the opportunity. I'm so curious to know what you would do in this situation. It's tricky, right?
It's really tricky.
And she was saying that this lady was kind of being a little shady to her in the beginning when she started, but then when she realized she was a rising star, she was then willing to work with her. So I will kick off my thoughts on this. I feel like she's saying, okay, this woman is making power moves. These are strategic moves. And I just think that they may or may not. I don't know that I would call it a power move or a strategic move. It's like people are out here playing games, and she's trying to. Who's not going to be trying to secure their job? So I mean, I think it's kind of like welcome to the game, and you have to figure out how you're going to do it. And I think you should always participate. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's just how I feel. It's like, get in there, participate, because you always see who's shining. Like, no one ever, you're never going to be constantly doing the work and no one's going to not notice. That's how I used to feel. I'm like, when I was in situations and I'm on teams and I know that I'm doing the best work, I have always gotten recognized, promoted, or hired away.
I totally agree with you. I think I would always participate.
Yep.
And I think that people watch who you don't know are watching. And so, be a team player, participate, do everything that you can, the best of your ability. And be a part of the team. I think people always, you will stand out. And that's always a good thing. It also shows leadership.
Yes.
It's not, being a leader doesn't necessarily mean you have to run the show. So I think, being a team player, going and doing something, standing out in that group, being a part of this thing, even though you're not running the show, could
Right.
also be seen as this is a leader at the company.
Yes.
She's willing to go and do this thing.
Right. Awesome.
Even though it doesn't mean obvious, direct
Right.
reward.
Right. I agree with you. So Niija, we are at the end. Thank you.
Thank you
so much for doing this with me. And I know
so
that
happy to do it.
yes, it's just a different perspective. And I know that my listeners will love this. Thank you. And I am going to
long way from fourth grade, girl.
long way from fourth grade.